in Parashas Bamidbar is obviously the parish of counting Klal Yisrael, and it is unusual in the sense that normally we're not to count Klal Yisrael. There's a prohibition against it, and here there was obviously a mitzvah and there's obligation, but there is a parallel event that happened in the times of Dovid HaMelech when he had Klal Yisrael counted, and in the wake of that there was punishment, there was a plague, and Klal Yisrael suffered because of it. Now, the reasons, what are the distinctions? Why is it that the counting by us was appropriate and over there not? It's true that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu said that's something that's very appropriate, whereas over there, where he was not told and then told not to, that certainly is inappropriate. But what exactly was the difference? So the Rabbi speaks about this. He brings the Chazal of that over there was he actually counted them, and therefore it was something, he did not have them give something in and you count that the way it was done in Midbar. So instead of having, he counted them directly, and that was the problem. That's what Chazal say. Ramban deals with that. Ramban has questions on that and so on, but Ramban has a different understanding of it, and we'll try to go with the Ramban. So the first thing Ramban says is that the word tifkod osam does not mean to count, but rather it means to take notice of. The word pakod means when you appoint someone for something, when you look to see if everything's okay, if the person is still there, it means taking note of someone, his presence, and so on. Now, the Ramban points out that the counting is not what we're obligated in, and he will explain why. Counting is not appropriate. It is being poked then. So let's understand exactly what that is. And Ramban elaborates. I'm going to try to express what I think is his point. Let's take an example. A person has sheep. Now he needs to figure out how much these sheep need to eat, how much they need to drink, if he's going to supply food for them, and he looks at each sheep, makes a rough estimate how much food they'll need, make sure they have enough food stored, and things of that nature. So even though technically I'm not expert on shepherding, but I don't think the sheep vary so much by what they need. But the point is, so I count the sheep. What I'm saying is sheep A needs approximately 10 pounds of food, sheep B needs it, sheep C, and so on. Adding that up together, I will come up with a number. So in effect, what I'm doing is I'm looking at each sheep and giving it its need. The way it happened at the end is an aggregate. I instead of saying I need one meal and another meal, another meal, I say I need 1,000 meals. But the point is, it's really each one stands on its own, and the number is simply a convenient shortcut to know that. That's one way of counting, and in general, taking stock the way we have. Taking stock and knowing how much I need, what I need. There's another Another reason for counting, I have a lot of gold coins. I've done very well, and it really, really makes me feel good to see how many gold coins I have. So what I do is I count them. I have this big bag of gold coins, but when I count it, I have 100,000 gold coins. That's amazing, and I feel very, very good about it. So each gold coin is not of any real significance. It's really the aggregate that's significant. And the purpose of it is to make me feel really, really good about myself. So when I do a pekida, which is that I look at each one individually, what I'm really doing is trying to determine the necessities of each one, and the number that at the end is not the number that I possess. It happens to be the number I possess, but that's not the point of it. What it is the way of having what I need for each and every one. So I have two general directions, two general headings that describe my counting. One is taking stock of each one and knowing what's missing, what's needed, and so on. And one is making myself feel good with the amount that I have. So Pakod is taking stock of each one. And each person that I meet, I take stock of him. And like it says in Rashi, that the Ramban says that there was a big schus of Klal Yisrael where each and every one passed in front of Moshe and Ahron, and they were nizkar by these tzaddik adors, like a chassid going to Rebbe. They connected, each one connected. It's true that at the end we knew how many people there were, but that wasn't the act of counting. Dovid HaMelech did not have any real need for counting them. There wasn't any overarching need. Over here in Bamidbar, there was a need so that we would know how many people are battle ready, and we can plan our battles accordingly. Of course, there was Nisim, Kodesh Baruch Hu did Nisim, but we had to do it in a normal way, and that's the way to do it. In Dovid HaMelech didn't have any real need for it, except simply that it made him feel proud or good or whatever. It expressed itself. So it expressed itself also that in Bamidbar we count only from 20 and up, and the reason is because since they went to the army at the age of 20, that was something that was the important number, to know how many soldiers we have, how many soldiers we need, and things of that nature. Dovid counted in from 13, and that means that it really wasn't something that was part of a necessity. So the major difference is, am I engaged in counting to serve a need, or am I engaged in counting to feel good, to feel sort of bloated, to feel wealthy? That's one difference. It expressed itself in the fact that in the Midbar they counted only 20. They're ready to go to the army. That's needed. The 13-year-olds were people, and it's very, very nice to be head of a country with many, many, many people. But that's just to make you feel good, and it doesn't do anything. There's another element in that the Ramban seems to imply, the difference whether they counted from the age of 20 or the age of 13. There is a concept that bracha of Hashem is only by Samim Minayim, which means as follows. When something has been counted and we know how much there is, that is something that is part of our natural world. 2 apples and 2 apples will always equal 4 apples. Once I've pegged the apples as being 2 apples on this side, 2 apples on this side, then it's fixed. it will not change except for an extraordinary miracle, which HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not wish to bring. It would mean upsetting the natural order. Then there is Somim and Ayin. I collected stuff, it grew more, grew less, because the process is covered. It's something that is not open, and it's not something that is that has become part of the natural world. Therefore, it's not a great miracle if it changes. It's fascinating as a side analogy. We today have in quantum physics one of the tenets of it is that particles at a certain point we can determine either their position, either the speed or position. We can't do both, and that's incredible. It means there's a part of the Bria that's some iron, and that's not a miracle. It just means it's not in our domain. So when we leave over a particle not counted, an extraordinary increase or any bracha will not be a real miracle. It will simply be it will simply be something under the radar screen. So by Hashem, everything's a miracle and nothing's a miracle. So as long as we're not aware of it, it's on the radar screen. If we peg every single one in Klal Yisrael, we leave no room for bracha. It's either a nace or it's been frozen already into nature. So that was a second reason why that type of counting was not beneficial for Klal Yisrael. But the first part is probably the most significant one. So let's review the Ramban's point. The Ramban is basically explaining the difference between Dovid's census, which ended up in disaster and was seen as being not good, to the census that HaKadosh Baruch Hu set over here to do, which was a mitzvah, and which we did right in doing it. The Ramban's main point is that there is a difference in what the essence of the counting is or was. If the essence of the counting is simply a way of expressing the needs of everyone, I need to know how many meals to prepare, so I have to count the people coming. So I'm really identifying individuals. I'm not talking about the mass. It's just for convenience sake, instead of saying I need 1 meal plus 1 meal plus 1 meal, I say I need 1,000 meals, 10,000 meals. 2, the purpose of it is not to make me feel very, very haughty or arrogant. That was the counting by Moshe Rabbeinu. We counted each person individually. The purpose was for Yotzi Tzava, for the army, and therefore that counting HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us as a mitzvah. By Dovid HaMelech, the counting was superfluous; it wasn't necessary, and its purpose was to feel great about having so many soldiers, so many people. That's something that it's a arrogance, a haughtiness. It also means that counting sort of stifles the avenue of bracha to Klal Yisrael. Like HaKadosh Baruch Hu can't give any bracha, and therefore the way he counted and those that he counted. So Dovid HaMelech did not have a compelling reason. He counted everyone from 13 years and older, and depending on the shitas whether or not he counted them directly or not, these were the differences between the two countings. The counting of Dovid HaMelech was a counting expressing his own possessions. The counting of Moshe Rabbeinu was a counting that measured Hasadim of Hashem, how good he's been to us. It measured the responsibilities to provide for the needs of each and every one, and allowed for bracha to express itself in the parts that weren't counted.